safety reasons and consistency, we're going to be done here at 6 instead of 6:30. That, in my world, means one extra cocktail. Deal with it however you may, but you got an extra half hour. We need to approve the minutes, of course. And then I have just a very couple of brief comments. Let's do the minutes. Everybody received them in advance. You've had an opportunity to review them, I trust. All right, I'll give you a couple minutes. Do we have them?
No, there they are.
Okay. All right, I'll give you a moment. While we're doing that, I'll just make my brief comments. We have, our process has picked up some momentum. We believe as a committee that we are moving forward at a nice pace. We think that what we've landed on in terms of how we're dealing with every single comment, suggestion, and concern that has come before us, and by lumping them into appropriate categories together and identifying those questions that impact multiple schools by dealing with those schools and neighborhoods together has really accelerated our pace. I'm proud of what we've been able to do. And from almost all comments that I've received from the public, that seems to be a universal thought. That the pace and transparency of our process is really working well. So we're going to continue through that. We came close to concluding our middle school boundaries in our last meeting. Well, what I'm going to ask today is for the committee to either revisit or bring up any final thoughts on middle schools. I'd like to close that out tonight, if at all possible, and begin our conversation on elementary schools, which I anticipate will be slightly, or not significantly, more elongated in terms of how long we will have to deal, because we have so many more schools and neighborhoods with which to deal. So that's probably going to take us a meeting to maybe even 3. And with not knowing how the weather is going to be, we want to move as rapidly as we can, even with the potential loss of a day or 2 more in this process. I still think we're ahead of schedule, which we have promised the community we would be able to turn over our recommendations and lines by the end of March, 1st of April, and I believe that we will do that. The only thing that I will commit along those lines are that we will not make any announcements or turn anything over on April the 1st. I'm just not going to do it. It's too easy a joke. And so it may be the 31st of March, it may be the April the 2nd, but I can promise it won't be the April 1st. I am that. Indeed. Okay. Any other comments from the committee? If not, motion for acceptance of the minutes.
Wait.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hi, Erin.
Hi. I was late, but I wasn't 5:57. I was 4:57. Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay.
You were what?
I just wasn't that late. I want hours. It has Lester coming in at 5:52 after me.
Oh.
You just did a drive-by.
Even though
Keeping
I wrote it down.
Okay. We'll make that correction, won't we, Debbie?
Yes, we will.
All right.
So moved with the correction.
Second, please.
Thanks.
All in favor, say yippee.
Yippee.
There we go. It passes. All right, folks. Let's go back. Get your headspace around middle schools again. And open. Oh, I should say this. Hannah has informed me that Scott won't be on the line.
He's already here. He's already ready.
So I lied again. Thanks, Hannah.
No, Scott just landed. He's not in the room.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. We're glad you're here. We will resume our conversation about middle schools. Ready, set, go. Anybody?
Okay, I'd like for us to consider looking at Copperfield again. And look at moving Copperfield back to Beaumont. Moving another 55 students back to Beaumont. Really messes with the feeder pattern. It's been Beaumont and Dunbar, Beaumont to Dunbar for 25 years. And all the neighborhood schools around Copperfield will be going to Beaumont. If Copperfield goes to Jesse Clark, it'll be the only group of students not going to Lafayette, but going to Dunbar. And the principal of Beaumont expressed her concern about wanting to keep the Copperfield neighborhood. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Did we not look at that last week and say it didn't make sense in a couple of different ways? Is there a different way we could move other neighborhoods around then to accommodate those kids at Beaumont in terms of capacity?
We spent a significant amount of time last week changing neighborhoods in the Beaumont area and having to go over neighborhoods to pick that out and put it back in Beaumont. There's a whole neighborhood or two in the front of Copperfield at one plantation that makes more sense towards Beaumont.
Other thoughts?
But I think Becky brought up a good point, is that we are going to end up looking at the feeder patterns. If we've got this one area that's out of whack, at least look, is anybody else around there not going to be in the feeder pattern, or is this going to really stick out like a sore thumb?
Plantation is with them in Jesse Clark and then to Dunbar. Well, there's two neighborhoods right there together.
William Hills.
But whatever Twain is.
Can the same argument be made if we moved other neighborhoods?
In fact, you realize that one of the maps you have in front of you is the feeder pattern, or at least the overlay of how all the middle schools relate to the high schools. There's two versions of it. One has the high school colored and the middle school boundaries on top of it. And the other has the middle school colored with red high school boundaries on it. Those are, putting together the high and the middle that you've done so far.
So what area?
So, for example, it does more frequently you have students going to the closest middle or the closest high than necessarily the feeder pattern. Beaumont is now approximately half to Lafayette, and half to Dunbar. Most of Jesse Clark goes to Lafayette, but there are three neighborhoods that are very close to Jesse Clark that go to Dunbar because they're also close to Dunbar.
If we would make this move, would it have any impact on having to relook at the Lafayette Dunbar numbers again? And I'm not sure we want to do that.
It would only be changing them from middle school, right? Or they change middle school. We changed that, right?
Beaumont is already had
But we don't do those in the back.
Well, no, but the kids that you're talking about moving from Jesse Clark to Beaumont, you've already moved from Lafayette to Dunbar, so you don't have to revisit the high school numbers again, because you've already moved them. And Jesse Clark does 110% and Beaumont does 108%, so.
If you're just looking at that area, you're just flip-flopping 50 kids, 50-something kids. So somebody will be at 1099 and somebody will be at 21%, basically.
So you're just,
Isn't it a lot more?
There's a lot more than 50 kids, though. Copperfield might just have
Right.
50, but that whole area is not just Copperfield. We put several neighborhoods there together, so
It's like 182 kids or something like that.
I was just talking about Copperfield.
Yeah.
But we can't go
There were
into
several hundred, I
one
think there were 100
neighborhood.
something kids in that whole area.
I think the neighborhoods, as they are now, are all together, and they're all going to Jesse Clark, except Dogwood Trace. And Dogwood Trace is over on the Harrisburg Road side and not interconnected with any of these neighborhoods that you put in Jesse Clark. Not interconnected.
And one of the reasons at the high school that we moved it was for, there were some significant transportation issues there that, I don't know if they exist at the same level with the Jesse Clark and Beaumont issue.
Looking to see if there is enough consensus for us to reconsider. Anyone?
I certainly think it's enough to say we have, whatever we come up with, this has been a difficult quadrant to work in. We've gone back and forth on these. If you go back and look at those 1,000 iterations we've done, we've had these in both places several times. And clearly we're struggling with what the right thing to do is here.
I would suggest in this area we landed on this, we keep it there. If the board wants to do something with it with our final recommendations, and that's their purview to do it. But I don't see, I mean, when you talk about all of those kids, why would one neighborhood have more preference than, say, Plantation or the other ones that are in the same situation?
Well, I'm going to take Betsy's recommendation as a motion, and if it is seconded, we'll do a vote as to whether or not we should revisit. Is there a second?
I'll say.
Okay, Mike. So all those who believe we should reopen the discussion on Copperfield neighborhood only is what I'm hearing Betsy say. And moving those kids back to just singularly moving them without any corresponding move. All in favor of
Just Copperfield, nobody else?
that's what I'm hearing.
Chief, could you make a motion to consider all those areas out there?
no,
No, that's not what I heard. But Betsy, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, it's Copperfield. All right, all those who support reopening that conversation and moving them to Beaumont, raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? Okay, we'll move on. Next. Any others?
I know Lester has one, but he's not here yet.
Well, propose it, please.
It
No.
has to do with Cape Creek Middle School. Cumberland Hills area, does that ring a bell for anyone?
Yeah.
Okay. They are currently attending Cape Creek Middle We have heard from community members who would like to maintain that relationship. It would help the diversity at Tates Creek Middle, and he wanted us to revisit that line, but I don't know what the setting number is.
We found it.
To Southern Middle. They're not close enough to walk either.
That's not one we've already addressed.
No, sir.
Okay.
So we've got them in Southern, they want to stay at Tates Creek.
They're currently attending Tates Creek Middle.
Right, we've got them
They want to stay at Tates Creek Middle, but the current proposal moves them to Southern Middle.
Like 612, 611.
Right. 603, 604.
Yeah, I thought we did. But Lester wasn't here for the discussion.
Can you repeat the justifications for it again?
Well, they currently attend Tates Creek Middle. They add to the diversity at Tates Creek Middle. By moving them out, Tates Creek Middle becomes more frame-reduced lunch. And so by putting them, right now there's an imbalance between Southern Middle and Tates Creek Middle. So putting them back, well, leaving them at Tates Creek Middle improves the socioeconomic balance between the two schools.
How many kids is it? Because they're both
I
at
don't
110%. Yeah.
Scott, can you tell us how many kids are in that area?
Working on it right now.
Thanks.
Now, didn't we change the Tates Creek capacity to 750?
We did.
And I
This
think
is
that
only 700.
yeah, I think it hasn't been addressed on there. Hey, Scott, the other thing is that we had changed the capacity on Tates Creek Middle, but not all of the maps are showing that.
Okay, I just didn't change it on the map. If it's
Okay.
That will affect capacity issues.
Yeah.
database here, 50.
The whole area?
And that's not all.
The whole area.
No, that's
several
also,
neighborhoods.
that's Charleston Gardens, Woodfield, and Cumberland Hills. And
The whole area is 160 students.
Didn't we
So,
have
I mean,
it?
160.
We did check, we did look at that move, and then it was just too many students in terms of capacity. But we're not talking about that whole area right now.
Scott, this would be 603B, 604B, 611, and 612. It would not include 603A.
Okay.
And it,
What's 615?
just those four areas, not even 50.
3 and 4, 603, 604 probably in there too.
Just 603A, 603B, 604B, 611, and 612. Yeah, just those four.
84 students there. That would bring Tates Creek up to 114% and Southern to 99.
That was a 750?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's with the 750.
Right.
And logically, it would seem that if you did those, you should probably
Did
do
those last two there.
the last two as well.
Right, yeah, further out.
Yeah, which is Charleston Gardens and
Woodfield.
And that, if we did those last two, would bring it at 118%, and Southern would be at 94%.
And what was
That's going the wrong direction.
projections do on that, though?
That area is not. The 614, 615, there's a little bit of growth, but Cumberland Hills is still
As we have them now, we've got Tates Creek Middle going up in terms of capacity and Southern going down. So to make this change would make that even.
It makes it worse.
We'd be down to 80% at Southern.
Anybody think that we should try to make that move? Is there any
when you looked at it, it just makes it tough with the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, we have looked at it.
Did it boil down to just a free and reduced issue?
No.
What was the other issue?
Well, the current,
They currently go there now. I'm sorry?
Continuity for the families that are already there. When they were first moved into the area, the principals and the administrative team went door to door in that neighborhood inviting families to go. And they've really worked that relationship very hard. And it's been, the parents have also asked for that. It's in the Let's Talk.
But this is where the grandfather could help that
when that's when
particular
they,
area.
and what they were doing, and if I'm not mistaken, that's when they were trying, they started the refurbishing of Tate's Creek campus. They were trying to equal out work there, and so they went out to this neighborhood to get them to come there. And we kind of have to respect that a little bit because that's,
They recruited them to come from out of district, is that?
no, they moved them into the district, into that. And we're trying to keep some of those kids from going.
So like private schools are going to different schools.
Well, in particular, too, Veterans Park, in terms of the current boundaries and feeder pattern, Veterans Park kids, half of them go to Southern and half go to Tate's Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, there were a lot of kids from the Tate's Creek part requesting out of area to go to Southern.
Mm-hmm.
So then they tried hard to get the kids who lived in Tate's Creek to go to Tate's Creek.
It seems to me like this is the one area of town where we've got the feeder pattern right, we've got the middle schools right, we've got the high school right. And I kind of like to think it that way myself.
Well, I'm asking if there's any appetite to make this change. Just
Capacity-wise, it doesn't seem to make sense.
somebody nod at me if you think it's a good idea or something that we ought to do. I'm not seeing that, so we'll leave it and we'll move on. Other middle school suggestions, concerns, ideas, Mike?
We take a look at 219 and 220 moving them to Norton. We kind of worked on it the other day, and we stopped it at, where are they now? They go to LTNS.
Which ones, Mike?
219 and 220. I think it goes down to South Walton Avenue. And maybe we look at this request that Doug had, which was right across the street from there. Somebody right, 285.
Before we do that, can we get the justification too? Just helps out when we're trying to see why we're making these suggestions under what principle.
Well, the first principle I'm going to ask is, was this something that we have already examined?
We did.
And so what is the compelling reason to revisit it? Same as we did with Betsy's.
I just had some comments.
Okay.
Well, take a look at it.
But
Is this one that's on LTMS? East Diverberg? I mean, they're already at 78% free and reduced. Is this one that's going to make it go bigger? We already said that about 30 points, right? Right.
I don't know.
I'm just curious.
well, let's take a quick look at the numbers.
Scott, as a starter, though, what the committee approved Monday used was closer to Richmond Avenue.
Yeah.
Those
Right.
two here.
If I let me turn off the actual plan. So I changed the study areas, and if you see the red part is part of that one neighborhood, and I'm going to make it a little different color here. So that blue neighborhood is the Kenwick, and I've changed the study areas. I turn off this to reflect that. I think you said both sides of Richmond is where you wanted me to split it, so I split it along here now, the study areas. So even though the plan, because the plan was already made, that these two areas, this area here, Victory and Hazel, Marne, these all should be the purple going to Morton. In my numbers and everything else, it's going to show that. It's just didn't have time to actually make that change on the plan.
Okay.
Is that what we're talking about, Mike?
No, we're talking about these two, I believe, and so you'd like those two to go to Morton. So there's going to be, you're going to see a little bit of a gap in the color, but again, that's just for right now.
Splitting study. It's that problem he's told us about. Splitting study areas is not as easy and automatic as you might think.
Right. Splitting study areas means I have to go back and do everything, including the projections again.
That puts more one
Well,
on.
right now, we've got, you know, let's
12.
take a look at it. We're at 112% capacity at Morton and only 97% at LTMS. So moving two
But
more.
we got to include, but you got to add more students at LTMS, right, that aren't in this number?
We could just
No.
Okay, that's also only 13 students.
Right.
219 and 220. It's only 13.
How many kids, Scott, in 219 and 220?
29.
And you're not picking up any of those to the right of Richmond Avenue?
Let's confirm that.
Here's my concern here, folks. You know, what we're doing is moving a line basically that we worked on and decided was workable from Richmond Avenue. Now we're suggesting to move it to Walton. It's not that many students. On the other hand, if we stay consistent, as we just did with Copperfield, it doesn't necessarily improve the numbers significantly, and there's not a real compelling reason to do so, then I'm going to ask the committee if there's an appetite to make that move or not. I want to keep this process as consistent and fair as we can. And if we revisit things that we've already worked, it's like, you know, beating the heavyweight champion of the world. You're champion and get beat.
I mean, isn't that the point of this meeting, is to go back and revisit things and maybe take another look at it?
We can't, and I said,
That's what we're supposed to be doing.
let's look at the numbers. But let's look at the numbers. Can we do that, please?
Yeah.
You're already up, okay.
It didn't change.
Still at 112 and 97.
Right, before it was at 107
And 104.
Just look where our map here.
LDMS's numbers really are not as important because they can be brought up and down with magnet kids. So.
I don't remember there being a great deal of discussion on why not Walton versus Richmond.
Right.
Arbitrary. However, are we now going to hear somebody from
Yeah,
Belcourt?
yeah.
Belcourt now, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And people on, I have a call today, people who live near Woodland Park, saying they can walk to Morton.
So obviously the line has to go somewhere. And we've had it in different places.
It's Morton high up there capacity-wise, and I'm guessing it doesn't improve free and reduced.
Well, now let's don't get too far from remembering that our ideal number in middle school is 111. So 111 is not terribly problematic.
But when you have a neighboring school that's under 100,
But again, that's an adjustable number.
if people apply to that program. Yeah.
you're okay with Hayes being at 119, I'm not sure why you're not okay with Martin being at 111.
Because there's going to be a new middle school built out there that will relieve those capacities, I think was the logic behind those schools out there to be leftover capacity for a couple of years.
And we're going to see that come up again, Aaron, when we get to elementary schools for that.
Bob, how many kids are at LTMS now?
Their enrollment's down, I think, about 650 now. It's heading, but lately they've been not getting that as many applicants through the magnet process.
It does affect the free and reduced lunch numbers a little bit. I mean, it's
Do you mind to let us see? Oh,
Yeah, Morton's down to 40, and LCMS up to 86.
The LTMS is going to be down to 50 based on numbers that you gave us on Monday, right?
Yeah, currently the free and reduced lunch figures go down by 30% when you add the magnet kids. You know, it might not be exactly that in the future, but it's in that.
It's going to bring them a whole lot closer.
It's extreme.
The projection, I mean, Aaron's point about Crawford, about the perception of the school being not capacity like that.
Although LTMS has the option to make up for that, Crawford doesn't.
How do they have the option to make
Because
it work?
they have the magnet program.
We just heard that the applications for that program are down.
But the board sets the number of people that can apply. So the board may say, okay, we allow. How many does the board allow this year?
It's not because the board has said you're capped at this, because people aren't applying.
No, they do. They can't.
That used to be an issue, but generally LTMS has capacity of about 733, and their enrollment has been going down because they haven't gotten as many magnet applications. But what you've already done is you've already taken their current boundary from about 200 to about 400. So you've tightened it up in your proposal already. So now, when this proposal is implemented or something like it, then the magnet applications, they won't all get it.
So if they have about 200 right now in the district living there, and their capacity, they're at 650. That means they've got 450 kids coming to the magnet program.
Yeah, lately they've had 400 to 450 in the magnet program.
If we had 400 to the 400 in that area, that's going to put them way over.
Right, which does impose that limit.
Right.
So that if you approve 400 in the building from the area, then only 333 can come in through magnet.
And right now they've got 400 there.
Right.
Yeah. So there will be. They will probably impose a cap and not be able to accept it.
So in an ideal situation, we could allow for more kids in the magnet program, not taking this out.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
what this did. I don't have a problem with that.
I'm good with that.
I think Walton is a good break.
Now, what's the reason that the applications are down? Elaborate on that.
I have no guess of that.
No good.
But you better hope they do go down because you're not going to be able to accept them all.
I'm just wondering what the reason that you think the application.
I mean, the LTMS has changed a lot over the last 15 years.
Very good question.
Why do we think that the applications are down at LTMS?
I'm not really sure. That might be a question that
Could that be aberrational?
It's a significant trend.
and it may just be people are happy with their homeschool because they're able to stay educated once they
I'd say 5 to 8 years ago, you did get more applications from Beaumont, for example, or maybe 8 to 10 years. At any rate, you used to get 100 applications from Beaumont. You don't anymore.
We made a foundation, for example, in Beaumont, by putting a foundation for the players.
That's just one.
Can I clarify? You say applications.
Hang on, just a second. I want to follow up with James. Is that where you were looking?
Yeah, well, I guess the reason I asked is declining applications at their school. Maybe we would better serve their school, keeping the capacity high. Keep that, any kids district to go to that school as possible. If it looks like there's a decline in application, then that would keep the, the capacity.
And my question was directly related to that. I may have misunderstood. When I heard applications were down, it sounds like they're saying applications are down. There's still more applications than there are spots in the school.
Yeah, if your plan adds 200 kids to their attendance area.
Right.
So,
in that case, that's not as big a concern to me.
If you took the number of kids that applied this year, plus the 400 that we put in the attendance area, you'll be at 850 kids, right?
right, we would have to impose a limit on.
So for a school that handles 735, so there's going to be 125 kids that wouldn't be able to go there.
Right. So we don't anticipate applications being that far down that it's going to keep dropping below capacity. It's just we don't know.
I mean, it's already 50 to 80 below capacity, and we do project next year it's going to be more than 100 below capacity.
But not counting what we've done here with
No,
food
not
and
counting that we just added 200 more in.
Yeah, so it'll be.
Okay, let me re-ask the question. Since this is sort of it is a revisit. Is there anyone who thinks that we should reopen this and consider moving those two study areas, moving the line from Richmond Avenue to Walnut?
Yes.
Okay, Mike, is there a second?
Yes.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. So we'll do the same thing we did on Copperville.
Can we have a discussion first?
Sure, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And it may be a perfectly reasonable thing to do. That does leave, as we pointed out, that leaves Bell Court and parts of Aylesford and Woodland Park area that are now the schools that are essentially the neighborhoods that are being displaced from their original school. And is that going to leave enough of those non-diverse neighborhoods, enough of a critical mass to make the kind of difference that we're looking for in a school that needs it? And so I'm just, if we had the Bullock and those other streets still in there, that would help build that mass. And if we take those out, that makes it even more challenging for parents to rise up and say we're going to make this work.
Right.
But by adding those two areas to Morton, that actually increased free and reduced lumber.
At Morton?
Yes.
What did?
By taking those, you look at the.
What we did just now is reduce it.
I'm sorry, reduced it.
And moving Bell Court in a minute, it's going to reduce it even more.
We're going in the wrong direction?
Well,
As far as balance is concerned?
But we've not talked about Bell Court, but somebody did mention that that sort of leaves Bell Court and Aylesford as what's left of the non-attendance areas of those for LTMS to begin with. And is that enough to boost LTMS like we're hoping that it will be?
There's 11 students in this study area of Belcourt.
Good boy. That's right.
motion, and it has been seconded, to consider moving the line from Richmond Avenue to Walton. Lester?
What does that do to balance the free and reduced lunch numbers? Are we making it better or are we making it worse? Because the population is going down on one school and up on the other school.
But what happens to the magnet children that come there? What number does that do for the free and reduced at LTMS?
About 30%.
So you can reduce this number by 30.
But the bottom line is,
Still makes
food is still a
Still a
2% change from one to the
Still a
other.
change.
It makes Morton less diverse and would make LTMS, regardless of those 30%. Plus, or free and reduced lunch.
Well, also less diverse.
There's several areas in the middle school map where we can, hotels, the free and reduced lunch numbers. There's certain areas where we probably can't. So this is an example of an area that we can. Tate's Creek at 67% free and reduced is surrounded by 42, 46, and 27. There are certain pockets where we can make a difference and balance some of the schools up.
Well, let's keep it germane to this particular topic. Your comments are, we are not making positive changes in terms of socioeconomic with this move.
And how are we doing on space-wise?
Well, I think our capacities are okay, given the mean in 108. I think we're at, what was it, 111?
Yeah.
Morton and 7 at LTMS. But that's an adjustable number somewhat. So I don't think it's a capacity issue here.
Well, they're putting,
But
we're basing that
I do
on,
think that it is worth considering the free and reduced number on this one. And whether we're, as Ron said, do no harm. Any other comments?
one thing we have done there is that we have broken a study area, so we're going right down a street in the middle of the neighborhood to break this up. And I don't
With
think,
what we already did.
with what we already did, I don't think we've done that in any other
Where
neighborhood.
have we done that?
We did it right here. We broke up a study area to make it go down Richmond, the back of Richmond Avenue.
I think that mine was based on neighborhoods.
This is based on neighborhoods.
Yeah, what they told us was that essentially two different things.
It is, but it's, we did, I mean, he's not doubling any numbers in there by doing, taking the whole 219 and 220. He's not including the Richmond Avenue people twice.
No, I don't think so.
Because it was in, we had gone into Richmond Avenue and it stopped there, okay, then I said, hey, 219, 220, and then he overlapped it again. I mean, I don't know if it's double.
At the most, I believe there was about 7 students in this area, and that's where the area would be the overlap. So if there is, for some reason, an overlap, it's a 7 students overlap. I don't think that's going to make a difference one way or the other with the way we're, with what we're talking about.
Cuts it down to 22.
Yeah. Can I ask for clarification, please?
Based on what I understand, if we lock down what we're doing right now, that LTMS would have 100 fewer seats available for magnet students. But you thought that 100 was going to drop off.
Yeah, 100 is, yeah.
There's going to be 200 fewer, but 100 you were expecting for to drop off anyway, right?
100 have already dropped off in terms of the number of requests. This will reduce the number of spaces by 200.
Okay.
So is it desirable to the school system that we maximize the number of seats available for magnet seats?
That's what this.
Are we doing harm?
This move actually helps that number a little bit.
Well, that's my question, is if it's beneficial that we maximize the number of students that we can get into the magnet program, why aren't we taking 200 out? So my question is, do we want fewer seats available or more seats available for magnets?
I think what they were saying is that
How many-
magnet students have dropped so significantly by raising the districted number, you're actually helping the school out, because if you've lost 100 of those magnet kids, then you have 100 empty seats in the school. So by adding students that are already districted back in, you're helping the school itself.
Yes, but when we are filling up those empty seats and then adding another 100 on top of that, so do we want to add another 100 on top of that? Is that what's desirable?
That's a question.
But it's not ours to answer, it's the schools.
I would say that if we have certain line, and right now it's set to maximize the number, fill up the seats. So if expanding the attendance area helps to do that, then we don't have a significant number of students that we're turning away because we made other arrangements. And I would tend to areas that I don't think you're displacing any opportunities for magnet students if in fact you're saying that there's a spot for that purpose.
But based on me, like, the system is empty.
Okay.
I don't mean to say empty, but, you know, but
I don't we need to maximize the space, particularly until we get another.
that's, yeah, sure, that's.
I would say one thing, though, off the top of my head, that this came from magnet students, only 200, whatever. Right now, that the majority of kids who are in the building at LTMS are not from the neighborhood. Therefore, when you add the magnet kids, it does drastically change the pre-enrollment.
Well, we're using a 30% number in our estimations here, right?
Yeah, the number will go down. But what I'm saying is that number will go down. It will only change it by 15%, perhaps. I don't know. I've never attempted to calculate, but it probably only change it by 15% instead of 30.
What's the building capacity?
733.
733. How many applications are they getting?
I think it's about 400, 450.
And of those applications, how many are being accepted and how many kids are actually? All the applications are accepted?
Yes. If they meet the criteria and if they choose to go. Yeah.
Right now.
Right now.
So how many do they have?
How many students?
How many magnets?
This year, about
200 in the attendance boundary area.
200 in the area, 450 magnet, together 650, doesn't fully utilize the building. So the projection is that it's going down.
So what's our,
Now there's only 400 in the tennis area on the line right now.
400.
Do, or do we need to think for ourselves what's fair and just? Let's project from there.
That's what we're doing. We're not asking.
Because if they have the same
Board's not
number,
telling us anything.
if they have the same number of applications this year, or say they have 400, they're down 400, and there's 400 in the attendance boundary area, that means there are going to be 800 kids, so 70 of those magnet kids are not going to get in.
And if you want to go a little step further, those 70 that aren't getting in are probably from either Leestown or Crawford. That's where the majority of the applications come from to go to LTMS these days.
And also remember, not all 400 that live in the attendance area are going to go to LTMS.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's,
I don't see an issue with the move we made as we made here. I mean, I think we're arguing over minute points. I mean, it achieved a lot of the stuff we wanted to do. see if we can just get a common agreement, move on one way or the
Well, I
other.
don't want to cut off the conversation if there's something new to add, if anybody has additional thoughts, but
I never gathered what it changed or compelling arguments to do the change. I never heard of that.
But why are we making?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't mess up anything, but I didn't understand why we actually did it in comparison to the other decisions we made earlier tonight. So I just didn't hear the argument. It didn't significantly make things worse, but at the same time, what was the reason to do it at all? I just didn't hear that.
there really wasn't one.
So we stick with
Even Mike said that, right?
We didn't do that.
Well, it has made free and reduced a little worse.
I just thought, well, yeah, and we are. That's all we've been looking at for
Well, the thought was it was on Richmond Avenue, and it was just splitting on Richmond Avenue, which is kind of splitting a neighborhood, and then moving to Walton, which could encompass that neighborhood.
I mean, that's a different neighborhood.
But it's a different
It
area.
came up in the form.
I always thought,
Yeah.
I always thought that was a good idea. That's what I asked for the other night.
Yeah. It's form Tuesday. That's why you brought it up.
And that's why I was asking whether it was desirable to have more applicants get into the magnet program, because that would make it easy to put Belfort in too, which is 3 up to 6.
Yeah, I mean, if you take any direction, that's right. If you take 29 students out of LTMS, it gives them 29 more slots.
Right, that's 29 more applications that are going to get approved.
Even more overcrowded than Morton, though.
If we made that argument, I certainly would cross the other side and make it for Park and Pennsylvania and elsewhere.
Then I think we're getting way.
And now we're going.
But that's where
Right,
the
no,
next
I-
step goes. If
Right.
you use that justification, you pick up, you restore the district essentially to what it was beforehand. If the justification is we want to enable all the applicants to go to LPMS.
I mean, I guess I don't know why we took that to begin with.
Well, it was part of the process of balancing some of the, from the southern and western study areas that we moved out of, or in, rather, into Morton. So we took some of the capacity from these areas out to keep that as close to the waterway as possible. So, which means that, you know, as in every one of these deliberations, there are corresponding things that we have to consider if we do make changes. Sorry, you got something. Okay. Anyone else? All right, we're going to ask the question the same way we did previously. Anybody, please raise your hand if you believe we should move the line from Richmond Avenue to Walton. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. We leave it as is. Next. Lester.
I want to take a look at what I mentioned a few minutes ago, see if we can't do anything to balance out the Tate's Creek area with the surrounding schools. Is that an exercise that we can look at?
It is. It's a holistic move. It's not a revisit. So, yeah.
It's not a revisit, I'm just
Yeah, we actually did it before you got here.
Yeah. Sorry.
Lisa raised up your concerns.
But I don't know if
Right, no.
if I had picked the right place.
I think it's fair enough to have Lester explain what he's asking.
Certainly.
Well, my argument, which is not Mr. Thornsberry's argument, which I met with this morning, but what I'm saying is one school is at 67%, the school to the right is at 27%, the school to the left is at 46%, and the school on top of it is at 42%. Neighborhood here and neighborhood there would kind of level all this off.
study area?
Yes. What's the percentage with the GT program now? GT program, the GT program will bump it.
How much?
I don't know because they're not at 67% now. With the GT program, they're right at 55.
Currently, it changes it by about 7%.
And we've looked at Charleston Gardens area earlier, but we did not look
Where's
at,
that?
it's the southern. But we did not look at Hayes or Morton areas. So if you had some specific suggestions on
Actually, still,
sorry.
Charleston Gardens is the last one.
Right.
Smaller change, Charleston Gardens could be done without.
That's not much, but
What he told me this morning was his elementary feeder pattern. There's a significant program, an orchestra program, with different things that come from that part. The way I want to present it to you guys is building capacity and free and reduced lunch numbers. Free and reduced lunch numbers is just a hard line number that we can see on this chart and on the computer with the surrounding schools in real time.
So it's the capacity to what we got moved, what districts you want to move.
Yeah, 615 will be the first if you're going to logically do that here.
It doesn't have to be on the south end. You know, we could also look up to the Circle Road area on the top.
The point we made earlier about the pattern working fairly well here. Yeah, right now you've got these maps show how the feeder pattern works at the high school level. It makes matching it, and it also matches elementary fairly well, except for suppliers, which we discussed Monday.
All right, to continue consistency.
Okay, so area for Tates Creek Middle School that does not go to Tates Creek High School, would that be an area that we may consider? Off alumni, well, the kids that go to Henry Clay are going to Tates Creek Middle. That may be a reduce lunch numbers and maybe create a balance.
This area?
Right, and I'm talking about,
Yeah.
They already go to Tates Creek Middle.
right, I'm talking about taking them out.
That's not, you know.
Well, if you took them out and put the rest of Squires in, it would. That's an option. But what you're asking.
Okay. You see it?
Oh, I don't want to be on an island, you don't have to.
You're not on the map.
Can we go ahead?
We want the high school feeder. I got that map out here. This little pocket. Look at.
Or hey,
There it is.
oh, yeah. I lost
it's right here, right?
Okay. Cat.
You guys are breaking up a little bit. I can't hear if you're needing me to move something.
So, he suggested moving.
Okay, I'm going to give you some numbers. Scott,
Where are we moving them to?
go with Morton for now.
Wait a minute, we didn't move to others while ago.
376, 377.
Okay, so that brought it from 107 at Morton's and 101 at Tate's Creek to 111 and 97, about a 4% change. There is 32 students in those 3 study areas. Mainly in 377. And then I guess
Numbers?
you want to see what that does for reduced? Do you want to move 429 into Hayes?
No, not yet. Let's see what it does for reduce now, because we're already, building capacity for Tate's Creek has gone down, and that's not desirable.
How many did we force? What did you do with free reduce?
It's looking now.
It's only a 1% change for Morton. It goes from 42 to 43. And Tate's goes from 68 to 67. Or 67 to 68, I'm sorry.
Well, it's not worth it in that if one person. That we're not really changing anything on our free and reduced lunch numbers. We are having a 4% or an 8% spread in the 2 schools that we're talking about in terms of capacity in the wrong direction.
So I think the projections made that even.
And the projections made it worse.
We'd have to look at it again. But
again, at the pleasure of the committee, but is there anybody who feels like we ought to try to make this move?
Well, I will say this. You know, we haven't got back to the elementary school maps yet, but some of the suggestions that we made, I think what Lester's trying to do is something that you have to do in a more intimate setting with several different maps, because you almost have to go around the whole district making these changes. And I think he's on to something as far as making slight changes and not necessarily messing with or disrupting feeder patterns. But I think it's hard to do it in this setting and actually get the committee, because he moved an area, but it was only like a 1% change, whether it was to the plus or minus. And I think it's worth looking at. And I guess what I'll say is that if Lester wants to get a couple of people together and make some of these changes, I'm willing to do it. But it's just hard to do it in this setting, because I think you gotta pull up 2 or 3 maps and actually take a look at it.
Well, I'm concerned though that in doing that, we're going to be making wholesale changes around the whole district and undermining a lot of the work that we've done. We can go back in a smaller environment or in this setting and look at an awful lot of different scenarios in the aggregate, but then you're going to be looking at the whole district.
Well, but I think that'll come out in the in the discussion and the changes that you're making wholesale changes, and it's not in the the pattern, the capacity or the SDS numbers. Then you find that out. I think that's what it's going to take to actually have some kind of impact on what he's trying to do.
I just looked at this at a projection standpoint also. Currently, without that change, Morton's at 136 and Tate's Creek is at 106. If we did implement that change, it brings 146 up for Morton and Tate's Creek down to 97.
Building capacity, that change hurts. I am interested in balancing some of the free and reduced lunch numbers. that I do not disagree with Mr. Snyder.
We do know it's
I will just say this, and again, one person's opinion. Reluctant is the word I would use to looking at significant district-wide changes on the work that we've done. And, you know, we want to get it right, for sure. Do want to get it right, but I'm not sure that going back and re-looking at everything is the way to do it. Then I think I'm open to the suggestions of the committee, but if you have a suggestion, you should make it.
Lester, if you want to try something like this in this area, may I suggest 376, 377, and 429 into Hayes, and then take some out of Hayes that's down by Armstrong Mill Road.
And put them where?
And put them in Tate's Creek instead. If that's your objective, to try and balance the free and reduced better.
Yeah, it would be an incentive to balance and reduce, but again, not at the expense of building population.
Right. So replace those students in Tate's Creek. Swap a number of students at Hayes that are reasonable with a number of students that are see, I don't know how many, he said 30, was it 36 in those three?
377 he said was the one that would have the most kids, 30-something.
Put all of your Hayes that go down to Hayes and pull them out down in East
Like basically Squire Oak and Honey Hills area.
Do you have those numbers?
In terms of study areas, that would be 52 and 55.
We swap those then?
They're trying to swap 52, excuse me, 455, swap that with 376, 77. Okay. 455 and 452. Swap those and see what that does.
That does go from 67% to 63%.
And Hayes goes from 27 to 32. Or was it 27 or, yeah. Hayes goes from 27 to 32.
And then if you take into account that they drop another 6% with your GT program, that puts it.
at least
So yeah, that goes to Hayes Creek.
What does that do with capacity?
Yeah. Actually improves capacity.
Okay, 120 down to 117.
But then if we were also doing that to get better feeder patterns, now we have these outside the feeder pattern.
Henry Clay is under capacity, or
Actually, State I has a little bit more.
but those kids who we just swapped, oh, so we just do the, you kind of do an even swap again for the
You
high
can
school?
swap the high school too.
I don't like all of them.
Take a selfie with the light.
I really like that picture.
And that's kind of what I'm talking about. That little tweak, I mean, made impact, but it didn't change a lot to the work that we've already done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if there is around the district, and we could probably do the same thing. But it's time consuming when you're in a big meeting like this with a big committee.
Well, this is the only format that we have.
Yeah.
And we have been committed from the very beginning to do this in the most transparent way that we can. So, this is the way we've got to do this. I mean, individuals can come up with suggestions, bring them to this forum, and we'll look at them. But to have a study group go off, independently, it's fine, but to do it as part of this organization without the public being able to observe the operation, I'm not comfortable with it. So, as is the case when we get to elementary schools, we have some committee members who got together and are making some suggestions, and we're going to review each one of them. But that's the way I want it to keep this process going. So while it may be time consuming, it's the right way to do it.
Got the high school up.
Are you making the same change, David, to it last night?
Pulling up high school. By the way, you might have lost 427. Trying to make a clean line, 427. I just think it was solid.
There's 99 high school students in that area, so it does make a significant change. We're looking at 102 for Tates Creek currently with the blue line as it is, and 103 with Henry Clay. If we do this change to match the middle schools, we're going to a 98 for Henry Clay and a 107 for the high school for Tates Creek. So we do make a significant change there.
So what's our guiding line against the high school?
Yeah, what's our cap?
96 or 7 or whatever it is. We don't have any caps, obviously.
Can we see a projection?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, give me a second for the projections, because I didn't have the high school projection up. It's opening. It'll get there soon.
What do we got here?
We don't.
there. I'm having some technical difficulties here. I apologize. For some reason, it's not opening right now.
Could be bro.
I'm San Diego.
No, it's pretty nice here today. It's only 70.
We'll never bothered us anyway.
Okay, folks.
Sorry about this. I think I might have it here. Come on. Nope, still not opening. I don't know what's going on. Jeez. Okay, let's see. I tried to back up here. Let's hope the backup seems to be working. Okay, the backup's working, so I'm going to have this here in a second. Okay, in 2018, that brings Henry Clay to 102 and Tate's Creek to 109.
Not worse, they just go down.
Not worse.
Oh, Tate's Creek, 108 is 107, but the
Henry Clay got okay.
It's 2018. 2018.
This is 2014. With this change, it's at 98 and 107. If we go to 2018 with this change, it's at 102 and 109. So Tate's Creek went up, and Henry Clay went up.
What is it if we don't do the change, though? I mean, if we don't do the change, what is it then? I mean, are we just switching it? Because if we don't switch it, will Henry Clay be significantly higher than Tate's Creek down the road? Is the population probably going to be the same somewhere?
This is the way it is. If we keep it currently with these two study areas in Henry Clay, it's at 107 and 104. If we move these two study areas into Tate's Creek, it's 102 and 109.
What's the projection leaving them the way they are?
The way they are currently, right?
Yeah.
That's what he just showed us.
I thought what you showed us was making the move.
So without the move, they're more balanced, making the move, they're less balanced.
So Henry Clay, with the way they are, 107 to 104. If we make the move, and move these to Tate's Creek, it's 102 at Henry Clay and 109. So it brought it out of balance a little bit more and switched it.
Does that leave more room for magnet kids at Henry Clay?
Before we make a decision, can we look at the same scenario projections that Trina used to stay in balance in population?
I'm sorry you broke up. I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Same exercise between reduced lunch number-wise.
All right, but we can't look at that projection-wise.
He never does.
So move it back to Henry Clay now, and we'll look at the free reduced. Okay, so currently, with these study areas current as they are in Henry Clay, we have 39% free and reduced at Henry Clay and 47% at Tate's Creek. If we make the move and bring these two study areas to Tate's Creek, it changes at 1%.
Has he made them on the other side yet? Like, 'cause didn't we?
Already were there.
Yeah, these were already here. These were already here.
And frankly, if you wanted to more fully follow the feeder pattern and don't do the swap, probably ought to put 376 and 377 into Tate's Creek High.
I think we're getting into a big mess. We start a lot of changes to the high school map. I think our numbers are pretty good where we have.
And we're also inviting new neighborhoods into the conversation. And
To those neighborhoods, are they at Tate's Creek now?
okay, we've looked at it. Both free and reduced and our capacities. What did we learn?
But it makes it great. It's wonderful that it's affordable not at the high school.
Yeah, this change makes sense at the middle school level and nothing else. Can we live with that feeder pattern wise?
This is the middle schools with the high school in the blue line.
I don't feel like those neighborhoods will complain that they're going to Henry Clay for high school.
They've always, they've done Henry Clay.
Like, I don't feel like they'll. I don't think it's going to hurt a lot.
Open.
Like change the middle and leave the high?
I think we should, I'm compelled. There's also out-of-area options. Have kids that go middle together want to sit.
Okay, we're not going to be able to get the feeder pattern with all the schools. It's just not going to happen.
What did we accomplish? Helping
At the middle
parents do
school.
lunch.
At the middle school level, it made a lot of sense.
Okay.
It even helped bring the Hayes numbers down a little bit.
Right now. Anything to reduce?
Well, we do have an option of making the change in the middle school plan without changing the high school plan and just let the feeder patterns fall where they may.
I think that's what we're hearing here.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that's
I am dissuaded from doing both, for sure, because of the changes that we make in high school level.
so what is our motion?
All right, the motion is, I'm going to take it from Lester, is that we look at these changes. And do we have a second? I believe James is the second. Am I getting it right?
Yes. Third.
All right, the question is, do we, with these changes, in the middle school only, we're not touching anything in the high schools, are these changes acceptable? If your answer is yes, raise your hand. Good enough for me. All right, we will make those changes, Scott.
Got it?
All right, it's past 6 o'clock, folks. I said we get out a little early today. Do your homework. Tomorrow night, if we're meeting, bring whatever final changes there might be for middle schools. I want to wrap middle schools up and at the beginning of our next meeting and get on to elementary. Are you with me? Thank you all for your work. I just got a note from my buddy that said, although it's not freezing yet, it is very slick. So UK's already married, have we called up 5? Yes, we have.
Be safe, everybody.
We have not. Let me just say this, folks.
They don't do that, Al.
Alan, it's still in the closed school. Yeah.
Hang on. If